Chapter 2. Trouble Brewing. Now eventually they sailed back home to Capernaum and spent a bit of time ashore. But when word went out that Jesus was back in his lodgings, folks crowded round till the place was more packed than powder in a gun. So what do you think Jesus did? He stepped up onto a table and began giving them the word of the Almighty. While this was going on, there came a brace of enterprising souls who planned to get a bit of doctrine for one of their shipmates. Paralyzed he was on account of a fall, so they laid him on a stretcher and brought him up from the docks to see the captain. When they got there, they found there was no way in on account of the crowd. But they wasn't put off, not these lads. They tacked round to the back and found a way up onto the rooftop. Then they began shifting tiles to make a hole in the roof above the parlour. When they had a hole that was big enough, they made fast some lines and belayed their mate, aye, stretcher and all, right down in front of the captain as he was preaching. Well, Jesus looked at 'em all, and you could tell that he liked their faith and their bold ways. But he gave 'em strange treatment all the same. "Your sins are forgiven, mate," was all he said to the jack on the stretcher. To them such as look on the outside of things, this was strange. Here was this fellow with a busted back being spoke to about his soul. But the clergy gathered by saw something even more confounding in it. "That fella's blaspheming," they said to themselves. "It be the sole prerogative of God to forgive a man's sins." Straight away, Jesus could tell what they was a-thinking. So he looked at 'em and said, "Here be a conundrum for ye all, padres. Which be more possible, to tell a man his sins be forgiven, or to tell a paralytic to get up and walk? How's about I prove one by doing the other, and you'll see whether the man sent by the Almighty has power to forgive sins." With that, he cocked his head and looked down at the cripple afore him. "All right, boyo. Up ye get and go home. Don't forget to take your bedding with ye." Well, that cove on the stretcher sprang up like he was ready to dance a jig. He took off with his stretcher under his arm, leaving 'em all struck by a thunderous amazement. "Praise the Almighty," they said. "We ain't never seen nothing like this." As he made his way back down to the ship, the crowds came surging at him from every alley and stair and doorway and balcony. So he went slow, teaching 'em as he went along. When they got to the steps near the quayside, they went past a tavern where there was a certain privateer by the name of Levi, lounging in the shade with his mates. When Jesus caught sight of him, he went and stood in the doorway and crooked a finger at him. "Get your kit, mate. I want you for my crew." Well, that's just what Levi did. And pretty soon Jesus had a whole parcel of rogues gathered around him. He and his men ate supper at Levi's lodging that day, along with a menagerie of publicans, slavers, and other rare birds. Of course, that didn't sit well with the clergy. Them religious folks took on mighty superior when they caught sight of the captain's hosts. "Look at that rabble he hangs about with," they said as they peered in at the windows. "Look, there's petty thieves and corrupt officials, and all manner of sinners. 'Tis a disgrace." But Jesus had a thing or two to say to them as he heard their pious talk. "So you're wondering why a man such as I should eat with disreputables, are ye, reverends?" he called out to 'em. "Here be me answer. If righteous gents like yourselves won't give ear, then why shouldn't I call upon rogues? For physic be only useful to them what knows they be stricken." That wasn't the last time he crossed swords with that lot by any stretch. 'Twas the custom at that time for the holy crowd to go without grub out of grief for the plight of Israel. The religious folks was doing it, so was the baptizers' lads. And when they saw that Jesus and his crew were going on eating and drinking, well, it made some of 'em sour. It made the folks in the crowd curious, too. "How is it that your crewmen dodge the ways of the religious folks, Captain?" they asked him. "Tell me," answered Jesus. Do you keep on digging when you've reached the gold? Do you keep on sailing when you've reached your port? Do you keep on eating weevils when you've got fresh stores? Nay, course not. There'll come a day when me own lads'll be grieving too. But for now there's a new wind, and when the wind changes your tack, or you goes off course. Another time, it was on the Sabbath, Jesus and his crew was coming ashore in the longboat. Now, as they was wont to do, some of the lads up in the stern thought they'd trail a couple of lines as they came in. So they baited their hooks and dropped 'em over the side. But the religious folks spied 'em doing it, and didn't they make a fuss. When the boat reached the seawall, they was standing there like a bunch of magistrates fixing to pass sentence. "Captain Jesus," they said in a quivering rage, "how dare ye allow your men to make sport on a holy day such as this?" Well, Jesus rolled his eyes. "Do you ever read the scriptures, your reverences?" he asked him as he climbed out of the boat. "You do? Well, did you ever come across a place where King David was hungry and grabbed a bite of bread from the temple, even though 'twasn't strictly legal for ordinary folks to do so? I tell you, these rules you're making such a fuss about was given to bless men, not to tie 'em up and keep 'em down. And besides, as I just showed you, things work a bit different for the Almighty's man. He be the master of ceremonies as far as the Sabbath goes."